All of these piano pieces are wildly popular, but how difficult are they really to play? Well, in this video, I'm going to tell you. I'm going to put each piece into one of 5 categories. The very easiest level I can assign is beginner. Then after that, we have intermediate, which if you're not a piano player yourself, intermediate is already sounding pretty difficult. The next category is late intermediate / early advanced. And then after that, we have simply advanced, which is a level of difficulty you would expect if you went to a piano concert. You would expect a professional on the stage to be playing music at the advanced level. And then just for fun, I included an upper advanced category because as we all know, there are some pieces that are advanced in concert repertoire, then there are the ones that are really, really advanced difficult pieces. The ones that like keep you up at night. First up here, we're looking at Bach's Prelude in C major, which I'm guessing most of you recognize because it's one of the most famous pieces that we have in music. This one is almost competing the beginner level. However, I think if you want to play this one well, it would be safer if you were an intermediate student. I have seen this piece used in like beginner method books, not at the beginning, not like in year 1 of piano. You're a couple years in and you're kind of getting to that intermediate. So for that reason, I would feel more comfortable putting this in the intermediate level, but it's actually one of the easier of the pieces that we play that are wildly popular. Now, how Bach wrote it was there's a prelude, then there's a fugue. And the fugue goes something like, and then becomes insanely difficult. So if you were to take the prelude with the fugue, you're talking a truly advanced piece of music. If you're just to extract the prelude out of there, we're going to put the intermediate level, which I think that's what most of you probably listen to is just the prelude. Up next, we have Mozart K545, Sonata in C major. If we're talking just the first movement, I'm going to put this in the late intermediate / early advanced category. However, Mozart sonatas need a lot of maturity to play. They take a lot of like careful attention to detail, a lot of careful attention to like balancing and making the piece fun to listen to. So you'll be able to play it as an intermediate student, but it might not be any fun for the people listening to you play it. In order to play it well, you might need to be more like an advanced understanding of the piece, but it's not as difficult as some pieces. So I'm going to put it in this upper intermediate, early advanced. So I'm kind of saying this is like things you could see on a recital, and this is definitely a piece that you could see on a recital because it has that / early advanced repertoire. We're going to stick with Mozart and next up look at Ronda alla Turca. This one's definitely harder than the other Mozart K545. The beginning is harder, this part, but then also it has the, and then also later it has it in octaves, like something like that. So it, and then the whole, so yeah, this is on the next level up. So I'm gonna put this one in advanced. It's not like the last category of late advanced so hard, but it's a solidly advanced piece of music. Also, this one in particular, this is a multiple movement sonata. Check out the first movement of this sonata. It is also amazing. One of these, like everyone loves the third movement, but the real ones, the real fans know that the first movement, I come up with a list of pieces for this video. I try to think about all the popular pieces I know, but then also went through and read other people's lists of most popular pieces to make sure I hadn't missed anything. And a couple pieces are going to be on the list that were not written for piano originally, but I want to include them because some of them have almost become known as piano pieces now. And one of those is our favorite. It's actually not that bad. I'm kind of mocking it. It's basically, that's not a piano piece, but it feels like a piano piece. These are really hard to rank though. So this is a Pachelbel canon in D major. It's not originally for piano, it's for orchestra. Many parts, and they're playing canons and doing so many different things at once. The piano can never do all of it. So we're used to playing arrangements of it, and everyone kind of does their own arrangement. Most of the arrangements of this piece are at an intermediate level, somewhere between that beginner to intermediate, but most of them are kind of arranged at an intermediate level. They have you do stuff like often the we have now entered the best composer ever. And this is obviously Für Elise by Beethoven. And this one is the part is definitely intermediate. Like the part I'm playing right now. Don't play this fast, but most people know this part, and then they do this. And they leave out the whole. And that part, and also the how's that go? If you do all the parts, it's a 5-part rondo. You do first part, second part, first part again, third part, first part again. If you do all the parts, it would definitely late, intermediate, early, advanced in that middle tier category we have today. So I'm going to put it there. If you only want to play the beginning though, and you're kind of viewing the list I'm giving you today, it's like, I want to know which famous pieces that people will recognize, so I can go and play, at restaurants, or play for family, play for friends. Which ones are actually at my level? Totally use this list for that reason. So if you just play the first part, that part, early intermediate. If you want to play or middle intermediate, if you want to play the whole thing, it would go into that middle category, upper intermediate, early advanced. We're going to be sticking with the greatest composer of all time. Moonlight Sonata, again, just the first movement, not all 3 movements. So if you just want to play the first movement, this one would definitely be in the intermediate level, kind of like Für Elise. Interpretation wise though, is the issue with this one, if you play the whole piece, it's hard to interpret and make it attractive unless you're a little better pianist. If you're just like barely hanging on for dear life with the notes, you're trying to do the nobody wants to listen to that. So I would say safe. You want to be safe, upper intermediate, early advanced, but you can probably survive just the notes, middle intermediate student. But I want to make this like when you can play well. So I'm going to put this one also in that center category, upper intermediate / very early advanced. Up next, we have a slightly more rare piece, but still very popular, and also still by Beethoven. Pathetique Sonata. This is the first movement. It has the part that goes. But the part most of you know the best is the second movement. It's often put in like collections of most beautiful melodies ever written. It is, it's beautiful. Beethoven's written beautifuler melodies, but this is definitely up there. And the third movement is something like this. So I'm including the whole sonata because this is actually one that, unlike Moonlight, where everyone listens to the first movement, then maybe you listen to the last. Maybe. Pathetique is one where I feel like people kind of know the whole thing. So I'm going to say to play the whole sonata. This is like our first advanced. Like it's just advanced. It's not early advanced. This is just a solid. Actually, it's sort of like the definition of advanced music. Like you would expect someone says, I'm an advanced piano player. They should be able to play something like this whole sonata. It's 20 minutes long or so, 3 movements, one's fast, one's slow, one's fast again. Technically challenging, musically challenging. This is kind of what we call advanced music. Like to play an advanced piece of music is like a massive thing to do. If you want to play just that second movement though, shift it down a category. If you just know this part and you fall in love with that, it's still hard because there's parts of it like the what's the part before that? Because it has the cool chords there, like so for that reason, it probably would still be in the early advanced, late intermediate tier. I have the center one, but the whole piece is definitely just advanced. Up next, we have a piano guy, like our piano composer, Frédéric Chopin. We're going to start off with I should have looked up this chord before I filmed the video. What's that chord? And this is Chopin's Nocturne in E-flat major. Beautiful, beautiful piece. The Nocturnes are an amazing set of music. If you haven't been here on my channel before, hi, I'm Ryan. I love Beethoven. I also love teaching Chopin nocturnes because students can play beautiful music, especially if you're an adult. I teach adult students, and I love teaching them these pieces because they get like the beauty without playing like advanced or upper advanced music. They get like beautiful music though. So I love the Chopin Nocturne. This is one of the more approachable ones. It's also gorgeous and beautiful. So this one's definitely in that late intermediate, early advanced category. Easy. That's like just really what I expect. It's not advanced. It's not advanced music, but also you'd have a lot of trouble playing this if you were just like an intermediate student. So I'd say late intermediate would be just a spot for this one. And for more Chopin, we have his Prelude in A major, which goes something like, this one would be a little easier than the last one. You could probably do this one at an intermediate student, which is nice. This is probably one of his most, not the most, but one of his most approachable pieces. In fact, if you're watching this video and you're like, man, I wish I knew what the easiest Chopin pieces to play are, because I love Chopin. I made a video about that. I'll try to remember to put a link in the description down below. If I forget, you can try to go to my channel and find it, but you can also just leave a comment and say, hey, dummy, where's your video? I want to watch a video about Chopin, easy Chopin pieces, because I love Chopin. But anyway, this one here, great intermediate piece, not too hard. The next piece, though, is another Chopin one, and we're definitely going to get a new addition to our advanced category. Oops, I almost skipped ahead to the next piece. You didn't see that. The next piece is a Fantasy Impromptu. Advanced. It's hard. This is like, compared to the A major and the E flat Nocturne, oh, it's so hard. So Fantasy Impromptu, great piece. I've never studied it myself, and it's one of the pieces that are hard enough. I can't just sit here and be like, oh yeah. However, the one that I have played, it would be in the upper advanced category, especially for this list here. Our first addition to the highest category, I believe. It's going to be the first Chopin Ballade in G minor. It's an amazing piece. If you watch The Pianist, it's a piece that he plays often in that movie. So great piece, amazingly difficult. So if you're like fall in love with that piece because you heard it and you're like, man, I should learn piano for that piece, that's awesome. Maybe have a few other goal pieces along the way before you get there. But there are pieces that are really hard to play technically. Then there are pieces like the Nocturne that, you know, you could be pretty mature musically to pull off. Or like I said with Mozart K545 earlier, that you can play that piece, but if you don't have like good understanding of how to pull it off, it won't work. The ballades, all of them really, but the ballades do both at the same time. You have to have an amazing ability to do rubato, amazing ability to build drama, ability to kind of like take your audience along for a 10-minute journey. And it's really hard the whole time. So you can't be so distracted by the challenge that you're not making beautiful music, because it's just beautiful music while being insanely difficult. So that's kind of another factor, not always, but kind of a feature of many of the upper advanced pieces. I'm realizing now that I have 4 Chopin pieces on this list, like I said, Chopin writes so much music that is so popular, but I don't even have Raindrop Prelude on there. So I think I have to add Raindrop. Raindrop Prelude is so popular. Let's put this one intermediate. This would be like on the line. It's not quite early advanced. It's definitely not early advanced. And it's not that difficult to play. It's like fairly easy relative to advanced music. So I'm definitely not going to put it in late intermediate, I guess. So this one's probably more intermediate. Okay, now we're going to take a quick break from the truly great piano composers like Chopin, who just knew how to write for our instrument and wrote gorgeous, amazing, powerful music. And we're going to look at Erik Satie. If you don't know him, Erik Satie is famous for writing this mildly decent piece for the piano that has become wildly popular called Gymnopédie. If you want to hear the name of the piece pronounced correctly in its original French, it would sound more like
Gymnopédie.
Wait, is it always the same thing in the left hand? Okay. I will now play the first 2 lines from memory. Erik Satie, Gymnopédie. It wasn't bad, right? Okay, even though I do make fun of it quite a bit, I remember the first time I heard it just being, I honestly was shocked it was so popular. I do get it. I get that it's just different kind of mood music, different kind of affect. You're not listening to it for like driving drama. You're listening for like being in that sound and like soaking it up. So the kind of music you want to listen to if you have nothing else better to do with your life. It honestly is a good piece in all seriousness, and it's definitely a good intermediate piece. So intermediate category, beginners would struggle a lot with the interpretation of it, but also like stuff like keeping these jumps going smoothly and then being able to play this almost like not being hindered by the leaps and everything. Okay, now into an actually good French composer named Claude Debussy. And of course, I'm talking about Clair de Lune, his by far most famous piece. This piece is crazy. Like every, I don't know, 10 or 15 years, it's like makes a comeback. I remember like when I was a kid, people just like love this. It's almost like people forgot about it a little bit. And then like shorts and TikTok blew up and people started using it as a sound. Now people are like, I want to play piano again to play Clair de Lune. Level wise, this one is solidly like a late intermediate, early advanced piece. It's not the hardest late intermediate piece, but if you're like struggling with some of the other intermediate music, this one would be quite a big jump. In fact, a lot of people play this piece well before they're ready. They're literally beginners and they're not even like early intermediate. They just try to jump from beginner all the way to Clair de Lune because they love it. And sometimes they can power through and actually make some progress because, man, when you're motivated to play something you love, it's always amazing, right? Like you have these people who are like, I literally just started piano like 4 months ago and I've been working on Clair de Lune an hour a day. And you're like, there's a better sequence for learning piano, but I always love the motivation and like the drive and everything. But almost always happens is they get maybe through the second page with the, how's that go? If you love piano, though, it's not the same as the first ballade. It's not like the first ballade where it's like if you love piano and you're only going to be happy until you play the first ballade, that's years further away probably than Clair de Lune. So Clair de Lune is an attainable goal if you love piano. Like, hey, I want to do this for a few years and play Clair de Lune. That is definitely something you can set your sights on and go for. Up next, we have another piece that was not originally written for the piano, but has kind of come to be known as a piano piece throughout the years. It's a little part of an opera by a composer that most people never even heard of called Rimsky-Korsakov. And I'm sure well over half of you are confused right now, so I'll let you know what the piece is called. Flight of the Bumblebee, otherwise known as you can tell, I'm not really a fan of this one. Like the other one, since it wasn't originally written for the piano, the difficulty kind of depends on what the arrangement you're playing does. The most standard arrangement, you hear lots of like small children playing and you're like, oh my, they should win the talent show because they're a child playing so fast. That's typically like early advanced, upper intermediate, early advanced, that middle category. However, there's a version of it where someone plays it like, how's it go? Like in octaves. I think it's done like this. I think is how she does it. But the version probably most of you are familiar with is like upper intermediate, advanced with a fast scale. So if you can do a fast chromatic scale, you'll be good. But if you want some really popular pieces with really fast notes that are actually truly extremely difficult, you've come to the right place. Our next composer is Franz Liszt, literally the guy who isn't the hardest pianist ever all the time, but his music definitely sounds the hardest. So the second Hungarian Rhapsody, really famous, really awesome piece. Also really hard. In fact, I think, no, not all of them, but at least this one's going to be upper advanced category. We have another friend for the first ballade. This piece is really famous because it's truly so difficult. Some pieces are really famous, and because they're famous, people assume they're difficult. Actually, many things in this list people assume are like the hardest pieces ever, and they're not. They're like upper intermediate, early advanced, truly difficult pieces, but not things that strike fear into the hearts of people. Liszt is one of those guys that strike fear into the hearts of piano players. So upper advanced, I almost said Rhapsody, Hungarian Rhapsody number 2, really hard piece. But the next piece here I have by Liszt actually isn't too difficult. As long as you can reach 2 octaves with one hand and you have like a machine gun motor in your hand to play fast octaves. Which if you don't, this piece will probably be advanced or on the border of upper advanced. Yeah, upper advanced. La Campanella. I think all of you, just for fun, should just experience playing the beginning of La Campanella. Go look it up, look up the melody and go. Like, oh, it's not that bad. And then play E flat and then just alternate and realize. But that's not even the hard part. I mean, that's the part that definitely it weeds you out the very beginning. But yeah, then there's also just all the fast like octaves going on. Of course, all the patterns, all the flourishes and stuff. But really, those repeated octaves near the end of the piece, that's actually I think what is truly astronomically difficult in my opinion. Advanced pianists have different opinions. Sometimes they're like, oh, this is the really hard part. No, I think this is really hard for me. But if I would look at that whole piece, the part that I would say is truly gives me headaches, I should say, will be the fast repeated octaves. The flourishes are always like, flourishes are flourishes. You'll learn them. Lists is typically when you have a flourish, you're like, it's scary. It'll take some time, but you'll get it. But those repeated octaves are horrifying. But good news is, up next we have another extremely famous piece by Liszt that is not upper advanced. It's just simply advanced. And that is Liebestrom, which we say Liebestrom. It's actually Liebestraum or Liebestrom. Traum, I think. Traum is like, Traumen is to dream in German. So it's like, dreaming of love or something along those lines. Liebestraum. Liebe is love, by the way. If it makes you feel any better, though, Liebestrom is not like a scary advanced piece. It actually is like a little more on the line of early advanced to advanced. There's a lot of advanced pieces that are a lot harder. There are a lot that are some that are easier for sure. So don't think, oh, it's a walk in the park. It is really hard. But compared to La Campanelle and the Hungarian Rhapsody, Liebestrom is easy. I mean, you should never say the word easy with Liszt, but it's not that bad relative to like the really scary Liszt. And Liszt is unique on this list. Most of the other composers, the pieces that are most famous, like Beethoven, his 3 most famous pieces on this list none of them are in his top 10 most difficult, probably not even the top 20. And for Elise, and the first movement of Moonlight isn't in his top 100 most difficult movements. They're popular, but most composers' most popular pieces are not also their hardest pieces. But Liszt is like all about the flair, like the pizzazz, like wowing people. So he just happens to like Hungarian Rhapsody and La Campanella are really hard pieces. And then Liebestrom, which is easier, is still a pretty hard piece. It's interesting to see how the most popular piano pieces aren't necessarily the hardest. Lots of our standard repertoire would be harder on average than most of the pieces on this list. And we really don't have a lot of the crazy easy pieces or the crazy hard pieces that kind of make the list. Most of the really popular stuff, I think, also has a level, not all of it, but lots of it has a level of approachability. People can learn those pretty early on in their piano life. So I think those pieces can spread and become popular a lot more easily than something that's like out of most people's ability. All right, every time I do one of these massive ranking videos, it's always a lot of fun, also a lot of work too. But I always want to ask you that if you've enjoyed the video and gotten to this point, please take a second before you go. Think of a friend or a social media platform you think would enjoy it and share it for me. That would just really help out. I always ask when I have these kind of massive videos that take longer, just take a second and share it, like it, comment. These things just help the video do better. And it really works. These videos, people like share the video more often. YouTube always just shows it around to more people and just helps the video out a lot. So take a second. It would just do me a lot of help, do me a lot of favor. I forgot how to speak English. I guess it's like 1 a.m, so it's too late for me to talk anymore. Take a second, share with a friend. That would be awesome. See you guys in the next video.